TopMedTalk.
Well, hello and welcome to TopMedTalk. We're Euroanesthesia 2024 here in Munich, Germany. It's the annual Congress of the European Society of Anesthesiology and Intensive Care. I'm Desiree Chappell. I'm your host, and I'm joined by the lovely Kate Leslie. Hello, Kate. How are you?
Hi, Desiree. How are you?
I am doing well. Day 3 of EA24, and we've been here in the exhibit hall. It's been a great meeting.
We have, and we've talked to some really interesting people.
Yeah.
Yesterday we talked to Hugh Hemmings, the BJA editor-in-chief, and Beatrice Volk, one of the BJA editorial fellows. That was a fun interview.
She was great. That's really exciting to hear about everything that's going on over there.
And then, of course, we talked to, El Presidente, Wolfgang Bohr. He was fantastic.
He was. What did he say?
He said leadership is beautiful.
Yes.
Wasn't that great?
It was so invigorating, to hear someone say that. Not a lot of people say that these days.
They normally say, I have 3 days to go and I can't wait.
That's right. We had a great conversation. And other committee leaders within the organization and society, as well as friends of the TopMedTalk family, some new folks. So if you haven't had a chance to listen, please do. All these are going to be going out on TopMedTalk.com. We did want to give a huge thank you to EA24 for supporting us to be here at the meeting in the exhibit hall. It's a great opportunity for us to have these conversations and highlight what's happening within the society. So thank you to that. We also want to say thank you to our sponsors. Without the partnerships that we have with GE Healthcare, Medtronic, Edwards Life Sciences, who was one of our founding sponsors, we could not make TopMedTalk free and open access to the world and go to the meetings and get the great content that we do. So thank you very much. So our next guest today is a friend and who we've actually been partnering with GE Healthcare. So we have Alla Woodson from GE. Alla, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, it's great. So we've met a couple times, and I've always said, we got to get you on the podcast. So here you are. Exciting.
I am incredibly exciting and intimidated, and I get to be on the other side of listening to the podcast because my secret, Desiree, as I told you, is that I'm quite new to anesthesia. Yeah. I started my new role expanding into anesthesia leadership within GE Healthcare November last year, November 2023. And one of my dirty secrets is that I've been driving quite a bit between Chicago, Madison, Wisconsin, and Milwaukee. And it's a pretty healthy triangle. So you spend an hour and a half, 2 hours on the road, any given week or more. And I listen to TopMedTalk. I know exactly how many episodes I can fit in between my house and Chicago and my apartment in Madison. So I'll listen to your voice. Most recently, Kate. Yes, and it's just an incredible learning and picking up the themes.
You said you can say hemodynamic management.
I can say hemodynamic management. I can understand. And I ask Siri, because I'm driving, I ask Siri, what does it actually mean? I do pause podcasts every once in a while to check my terminology. But yeah, it's been an incredible learning experience, and I just am so thrilled to be here, and I'm so thankful for the work that you do, making the world healthier through the power of conversation.
Yeah. Oh, thanks.
So, Desiree, it really resonates with GE Healthcare's mission. We are here to make the world healthier, too. We're here to create a world where healthcare has no limits. So it's very much aligned.
Yes, that's right. Well, for our listeners, Alla, why don't you tell us a little bit more about yourself? You've just joined this one particular piece of GE, but tell us a little more.
Sure. So I've been with GE overall 18 years. I don't have a clinical background. I have business management and marketing background. I do agree with El Presidente. Leadership is beautiful. So I'm very lucky to be a woman leader in the industry and partner with clinicians and make sure that we create solutions to help save patients' lives. And that's certainly a mission that excites me. I joined healthcare industry 5 years ago. This is the industry I want to retire from. That's my dream. I don't know why it took me so long. Both of my grandmothers, who were from Ukraine, actually were in clinical field. One of my grandmas was a doctor. The other one started up as an executive assistant to a chief surgeon in a hospital in Moscow and worked her way up to be a chief operations officer of a hospital. So when I was little, I actually spent quite a lot of time in the hospital, not as a patient, but tagging along my grandma, with my grandma learning all there is to know about hospitals. Later on in my 40s, I ended up in the industry, and I just never looked back, and I love it.
Well, that's fantastic. So you don't sound like you're from America. You said you have Ukrainian grandmothers.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about how you ended up here in the States.
Yeah, I was actually born in the USSR. I'm dating myself. But I came to the United States. I won a contest and ended up being an exchange student in Poplar Bluff, Missouri.
We'll say that one more time.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Poplar Bluff, Missouri. Missouri, shall I say, which was quite a cultural shock. So I moved to the U.S. in 1995 as an exchange student, graduated from high school, got my high school diploma, got a 4.0, and got a scholarship in Bethel University in McKenzie, Tennessee, which is about 2.5 hours from Memphis, 2.5 hours from Nashville. I can speak with a Southern accent if I turn it on. My husband is from Tennessee, Zach, born and raised in Tennessee. We just celebrate our 25th anniversary. May 8th. So he does have a deep Southern accent.
Yeah.
So our kids have all kinds of accents.
So tell us a little bit more about GE Healthcare and the anesthesia side. So we have, and if you're a TopMedTalk listener, you've heard the work that we've done with GE Healthcare with their patient solutions. Portrait Mobile is one.
Continuous monitoring.
Continuous monitoring, post-op in the wards, which is phenomenal technology.
It is.
We've learned a lot about it over the last couple of years. Tell us a little bit more about the anesthesia space and where you work.
Well, obviously, we work very closely with monitoring. GE Healthcare is, 15 months ago became a publicly traded independent.
That's right. Yeah,
which we're super excited about. GE has been a great home, but we sort of moved out of our parents' basement, and now we're on our own, right? And we have the capability to reinvest into innovation at much greater speed with focus to develop solutions to help clinicians save patient lives. So that's very exciting. So Portrait Mobile is just one of more recent innovations, but we have many that we're bringing to the market in the digital space as well, connecting massive data and acute care space to provide clinical decision support, help healthcare solve staff shortages, and help in any way we can. Anesthesia and monitoring obviously work very closely together. So on the anesthesia side, we have, the pretty well-known devices, ACEs, CS some of.
I think most of us have used.
Yeah, so we're really thankful for that. And we constantly get feedback on how we can get better. So my team develops new types of technologies. M-tidal control is one of them. For example, it's very well known here in Europe and outside the United States. In the United States, M-tidal control to help with low flow is to enable low flow.
Closed loop.
Yeah, closed loop system, end-tidal control. And it's only been in the U.S. for the last 2 years. So we're actually working to introduce low flow anesthesia across the United States, partnering with the American Society of Anesthesiologists. And that's just something that's taken some time for folks to get comfortable with.
We've had end-tidal control in Australia for ages.
I know.
And I must say it was a major step forward, because it's a bit like using a target-controlled infusion device for propofol.
Yes.
And it takes care of the gaps in care between induction and maintenance. And when you change the concentration, you get what you asked for a lot quicker.
Yes.
I think it's been quite an advance in safety and convenience as well.
Well, thank you for saying that. And we love that, anesthesiologists can focus on the patient.
Right.
Rather than, adjusting the knobs and dials. And it helps sustainability goals as well.
Yeah.
We love talking about sustainability on TopMedTalk.
Yes.
How's GE Healthcare going in that space, particularly in the anesthesia section?
Oh, it's hugely important for us. So end-tidal control is one of the examples. We actually... Low flow. Yes, low flow absolutely is a big deal. We also... There's EcoFlow. There are other solutions that we have within the anesthesia space. We also have some internal. GE has ESG goals. ESG is the environmental, social, and governance set of standards that we measure, not just us, but every company. And we have some goals to achieve there. The emissions and so on. We do mind how we produce our equipment and solutions to reduce the footprint. Within the anesthesia space, we have internal and external projects. So I'll give you an example, like one of the internal secrets in Madison, Wisconsin, where we have our labs and our plant. We obviously have to do a lot of testing with vaporizers. Well, if you run gas through vaporizers for testing purposes, releasing into the atmosphere is going to be terrible because you do it 24/7 for certain tests. So we had a gentleman actually who created a closed loop system that the vapor is condensed back into liquid, and basically there's a circular system that for our purposes works very well. So that was an internal award we just got from our medicine side. Then other team members on my team are in the rural Wisconsin, outskirts of Madison, and they seeded the prairie flowers, so, beautifying the environment. So I have a team that is very, very passionate about sustainability. I can talk about it for hours. We don't have hours, but we really are within the products and solutions that we're creating, as well as within the company. That's absolutely front and center.
Because if clinicians want to keep using volatile anaesthetic agents but are concerned about sustainability, they really need reliable, low-flow anaesthesia with proper capture of expired gases and appropriate removal of them, not venting them into the atmosphere.
Yes.
I don't think there's a complete solution to that problem yet.
Not really. I mean, many people are playing with recycling, right? And, we actually speak with many customers that are looking for ideas and partnering with various firms to try to, find new solutions. And, even with TIVA, with propofol, it's not perfect either, right? Production of propofol is not necessarily that clean. So as an industry, we still have a lot to do. Partner with clinicians to, first and foremost, ensure a safe patient outcomes and patient care and reduce our environmental footprint.
Yeah. We're focusing a lot at North Star. We're working towards low-flow anesthesia and focusing on really education right now and just getting the word out there. We've been looking at a little bit of data. I'm always kind of surprised to see that the flow rates that we run in the OR are just a lot higher than what I thought, we kind of did. I've always kind of practiced low flow myself, just naturally. I will say the closed loop system, as I have learned about that more as a patient safety advocate and a quality person myself, I think it is a great solution because personally, how many times have you been working on a case? Well, not you, Kate, because you guys have this there, but where, you've turned the gas flows way up, you're getting not everything going. And then you turn around and you're like, oh my gosh,
I'm still on 10 litres a minute. Yeah.
Or your end tidal is super high or, whatever. I mean, there's always the thing. So I think having that set and go kind of thing is really nice.
We know what we couple this with is we have Care Station Insights, which is a digital solution that takes machine data during the operation and actually creates dashboards. So we even can help department heads track compliance to certain protocols and, how often, if you have the option of end-tidal control, how often do you actually use it? And we can calculate what is the impact. These are the things that we see increasingly our customers use to actually help their hospitals' goals, sustainability goals as well. And it's very real and it's quantitative.
That's right. Well, you are a woman in industry and you have elevated yourself and you're at this level of leadership that's pretty incredible. And so congratulations on that. Yeah. But I'd love to talk to you a little bit more, Kate. You and I have talked a lot about women in research, women in anesthesia, women in leadership, and we have on TopMedTalk. So having an industry person perspective, I think, would be really important. So tell us a little bit about your journey through your career, really.
Yeah. So it's a big question, right? So I know I'm a, as you heard the accent. So I'm an immigrant, first generation immigrant in the United States. I came to the U.S. alone when I was 17 years old as an exchange student and built my life and career from scratch. And I'm incredibly thankful and grateful for the opportunity and for all the people that helped me along the way. You never do it alone. First and foremost, and I think this does relate to this conversation, is I have a wonderful partner. I have a friend who used to say, for every pot, there's a lid. So, when I say my career, I don't actually say my career, I say our career. I've been with the same guy for 28 years. We just celebrated 25th anniversary. I met him in college. So Zach Woodson, he's my husband, and he's been instrumental in, he's a stay-at-home dad. And I know in the industry, in healthcare, we have 67% of women. As you go through the leadership ranks, you have, a lot less, so 25 to 30% at best, and some best institutions at the top levels. But just recently, I read the statistic, and I don't remember the source, unfortunately, but it's basically 50% of clinicians, physicians, men have spouses who stay at home and take care of all of the household chores and, kids and so on and so forth, right? And life, and do the hard part, right? And only 10% of women have that. And I am one of those 10% of women. And I think that has played a tremendous role in my career, being able to get to senior executive ranks, because I have a partner who supports my goals and who is my confidant and who is my friend and a dad to our 2 kids and just a wonderful, wonderful person. So I think this is important for women to see that this does work. It's not necessarily a very common situation, but I see more and more of that. Yeah. And certainly in the Nordic countries, we see that quite a bit. We have paternity leaves, right? GE introduced paternity leaves as well, quite some time ago for men. I have actually my life cycle director for anesthesia is currently on paternity leave. He's in Finland, right? And I start to see this in the United States, but it's not as pervasive yet. Yeah. And of course, there's certain parts of the world where it's much more problematic, and we still see quite a bit of disparity, be it within the clinician, clinical field or in the industry.
Yeah. I'd like to kind of pull out what you said. We all have to have people who have supported us along the way. I mean, that's on both men and women for sure.
Yes.
But we've talked a lot about, coaching, mentorship, and sponsoring. I always feel like my husband, too, is very supportive, which he's here. Shout out to Chris Chappell. He's really been, all of those to me, but really a sponsor as well, giving me the opportunities and kind of, coaching me along the way, too. Kay, what do you think about that? We've talked a little bit of that on TopMedTalk, having sponsors who really have helped us along the way.
It's good to have the mentors, which are the private or personal people and quite often people's partners and close friends are in that sphere. The coaching is also a personal one-on-one thing of more formal relationship of teaching and learning. But the sponsor thing, I think, is possibly the most important, where people are willing to go out on a limb for you in public with other important people and point out, Alla would be really good to take over GE Healthcare. Yeah. And they go, oh, yeah, I didn't think of that, but what a great idea. So that's where I think women, when we talk about women in leadership in medicine, we've moved on a little bit from mentorship to this idea of sponsorship.
I think you need both, right? And you need coaching, you need mentorship, you need sponsorship. And I couldn't agree more with you. What somebody's willing to say in the room that you're not in has a huge impact on your career. And again, I've been very lucky to have sponsors in my life. My current boss, my leader, Tom Wester, he is the CEO for our Patient Care Solutions segment for GE Healthcare, has been that person for me in GE Healthcare. And, I'm very lucky to have coaches, mentors, and sponsors across the organization, which is, I don't think it's unique to GE, but I think GE is probably one of the better companies out there that does have formal and informal structures and people really willing to step up and do this. And I've had this opportunities throughout my career, 18 years with GE, as well as, have some external coaching, things like that, to help me get there, right? So, and I am actually a mentor and a coach and a sponsor for many men and women, women and men. So I would say out of my 20 mentees across the globe, probably 15 are women, 5 are men. But that's what makes me tick. That's what makes me happy, is to find this incredible talent and talk about them when they're not in the room, to put them in the roles where they will succeed and stretch and grow to the next level. So give back. As one of my good friends says, send the elevator back down.
Yeah. I often encounter, and I often use this myself, to talk about luck. It's a lovely and modest thing to do, and we all do it because we don't want to go out there and say, I really deserved this and I got it. And I think it is one of those things that it wasn't luck, in your case, Alla. It was talent and hard work and determination probably that got you where you are.
Well, thank you for saying that. I think it's both. Being at the right place at the right time, it does leave to chance. But my mom always used to say, and still does say that, she's a PhD in chemistry and physics, a high achiever. So was my dad as well. Yeah, they're both retired now. But my mom used to say, you create chances for yourself. You don't sit at home.
Luck favors the bold.
Yes, you just go out there and make mistakes, and it hurts, and you learn, and, but you got to have growth mindset, and you got to get up, dust your knees off, and keep going. And again, the support network, friends, like you said, a partner, coaches, sponsors, and people who will prop you up are incredibly important. And I've had multiple examples in my career and my life where it was incredibly hard, but I always had somebody to call and help me through the situation and give advice. And again, this is something I love to do for other people as well. So we're all in it together.
So you're in GE Healthcare with some great female leaders, and you must chat about the triumphs and the disappointments and the challenges. What have you learnt from talking with your colleagues?
Yes, I don't think anything will be surprising. I don't think it's necessarily specific to GE. I think it's true for many women across healthcare and outside healthcare, to be fair. And imposter syndrome is not something foreign to us, to men as well, I think. But I think women in particular suffer more from the imposter syndrome. And we tend to think that working harder than men is absolutely necessary, outwork men. And that's been my case as well. I might be the hardest worker in the room sometimes, and sometimes I'm the only woman in the room. And learning to balance that, learning to be smarter about this, and, actually telling the next generation of women that, yes, it's okay. One of the incredible ladies on my team, she's my just probably one of the best people, or the best person I ever hired, and I'm lucky to partner with her. She was 5 months pregnant when I was able to promote her to an executive level, and she went in and had a beautiful child and came back, and maybe we'll have another one soon, hopefully. And and to me, that this is just important. I've had these situations before I actually was promoted when I was pregnant with my son in 2013. So just making sure, normalizing this and making sure that this is, this is possible. The more examples you have around yourself, and we're all human, and sometimes it's time to step back, and sometimes it's time to go and pull all-nighters, and hopefully not too many of those, right? But this imposter syndrome, working harder, the headwinds you do face as a woman, I do often get, quote-unquote, a compliment, but I'm not sure it really is, that I do get, some people say, well, you were just like a man. Oh, what does that mean? So meaning, you're tough, you're outspoken, and there is that, double standard. We all know that, how you communicate, and coming from Russia originally, I am pretty direct to start with, right? So, being a woman, it's in my blood, being a woman of Ashkenazi Jewish descent, so, Ukrainian Jewish, I got to learn.
And for our listeners at home, there's a lot of expressive hand gestures.
But I'm almost a selling, right? So pulling back and pulling that intensity back, right? Almost like, did you ever hear, do you hear a lot, man being told that they're too intense or too aggressive, right? So that doesn't, so we have to be aware of that, and I actually have phenomenal, I have a great executive coach. I'm very lucky and to have her, and that's something we often discuss. How do you actually alter the language to kind of fit into that mold? It does have something to do with gender as well, right? And these are the things that you kind of grapple with, and you say, well, the reality is the world is like this.
Yeah.
And there are certain things that we all as leaders, and it's not gender specific. You have to adapt as you grow through the ranks of the organization and lead people. It is important how you express yourself, but there are some flavors and some kind of shades to that do have something to do with gender, right? That's something that I think quite often about.
Yeah. I read a great article by Dr. Maya Hasty, who's an anaesthetist in the United States who does a lot of research on this, and she's got some great colleagues. And she was talking about the harmony in men between their identity as a man and the way they lead.
Yes.
Agentic, competent, assertive.
Yes.
And they're not, there's no internal struggle there, often, or stereotypically.
Yeah.
But in women, it's I'm friendly and collaborative and helpful.
Yeah.
And then if you're trying to lead like a man, there's this internal conflict that feels uncomfortable inside and makes you wonder all the things that you're talking about.
Or even if you are comfortable with that, people do tell you. And question that, right? So you kind of, oh, really? You're looking at me. So, working hard on imposter syndrome, you are just like a man. What does it mean, and how do you flex, and how do you adapt to that environment? That's important. I would say policy, our company, we do have a chief diversity officer, and we do quite a bit with colleague resource groups, which I'm very active in. We'll have Women's Network. We have various organizations that we help our colleagues through those, and also, we also have friends across the organization. I do think that the individuals you're surrounded by almost matters as much, if not more, than the actual policy. And I'm incredibly lucky to have great supportive colleagues, both women and men, where we can openly talk about things like that, and it actually normalizes a lot of things, and just ultimately we're all human. So that's important. And I actually picked up, because I work and live in the United States, it is a global role, and I travel quite a bit, but the majority of my time is in the United States. And the sports metaphor is an interesting one. So actually, my daughter is a first-year college student, and she's taken organizational psychology, and she actually taught me something. She said that a professor of hers, and she was discussing usage of sports metaphors in corporate America, which are pervasive. So there's a ton of expressions that, as not a native language speaker, right? Yeah, my English is quite fluent.
Give us an example.
Score a touchdown, or actually, I'm not very good at sports metaphors. That's my weakness, right? We do. I live in Chicago, and I travel to Wisconsin, so you can imagine at the beginning of the meetings on Monday how the game go, right? So there's certain pieces I do know, but there's certain pieces that, I'm very foreign, such as football. You don't touch food.
Well, like I always hear like, oh, we're going to call an audible on this now.
Yeah.
Which means like I guess it's pause. I'm terrible with words too. Like, There are a lot. I'm trying to think of them too.
But you would never say, "Oh, I burnt the cake again."
Yes, exactly.
Or some. I can't come up with that's inappropriate.
You don't go hang out in the nail salon to have a business meeting, but yet you can go play golf, right? These are the things that. So my daughter told me actually that her professor did some research on creativity in teams. And found an interesting correlation where you have predominantly male teams with a couple of women on the team, and sports metaphors are excessively used, and there was actually a measurement of how creativity went down. Not surprising, right? Because the women didn't feel comfortable in the environment, didn't speak up as much. Whereas the opposite, when it was predominantly female women teams with a couple of males and sports metaphors was still used, the creativity went up. So that's probably about inclusivity, inclusion, and just feeling comfortable to get engaged, to bring different perspectives. So I'm not saying that we shouldn't be using sports metaphors. They're quite fun. And I actually feel comfortable. Again, as you grow older, you get more comfortable in your skin. I actually stop the conversation and I ask, what does that mean? But a lot of women don't, right? So what I've been conscious of, if this happens, if a sports metaphor brought up, not only ask that, but if I think there's somebody in the room who's not picking it up, because let's say they're from another country and there's a baseball metaphor, I still don't understand the rules of baseball. After 25 years of my husband trying to explain those to me. But I try to, kind of pause the conversation, redirect, or even ask, hey, what does that actually mean?
What are you trying to say here?
Yeah.
That's very true. Kate, what are your thoughts on some of the things that she had talked about? I know imposter syndrome was one that we were having an offline conversation about.
The article that I referred to by Maya Hasty really questioned this idea of imposter syndrome because it puts it on women or on the person who allegedly has the imposter syndrome. It's like you have an internal psychological problem that you need to talk to a psychotherapist about. And you can turn it around the other way, that people get imposter syndrome based on external stimuli, that, you don't look like a leader because you're wearing terrific shoes.
Jimmy Choos.
Jimmy Choos. Yeah.
Or things like, you're not, you're lucky. You were in the right place at the right time. And at the moment, there are some men who think that some women are being advantaged exactly because they're in the right place at the right time. And so there's this sort of, I think possibly both are true. I think there is an internal psychological element, but it may have developed because of all of the messages that women get from birth about their position in society.
Couldn't agree more. Yeah. Bobby Jean Schweitzer, I've also talked to her a ton. If you've listened to TopMedTalk, you know Bobby Jean well. And she tells the story where her dad was just like, well, you're not going to go to school. You need to find a nice man when you go to college and get married.
Yeah. That was a recent speech, the commencement. It's a big...
there was some controversy. I still haven't even listened to that. But, and not that there's anything wrong with that. That's totally fine. But it's, there's just messaging that we have gotten throughout our lives that it's different than men. I mean, that's just plain and simple. Not all of us have. I've been very lucky. Again, my parents listen to this too, so thank you, Mom and Dad.
They did a terrific job.
They did. They did.
But anyway, a fascinating conversation. I think this is one that we're going to continue to have here on TopMedTalk. Love your perspective, Alla. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Desiree. Thank you, Kate.
Yeah. Kate, anything else? I feel like we've kind of covered it all. Yeah. Well, love everything that you've said today. Perspective on women in leadership and your executive role that you have. GE Healthcare, thank you so much for your partnership.
Thank you.
Again, without it, we couldn't keep TopMedTalk free and open to the world, and we do have listeners from all over the world.
And thank you for helping me get my absorption of education in the clinical field. So we have terrific guests always.
Well, we're going to continue to do that for sure. And thank you for listening to TopMedTalk. You can always find us at TopMedTalk.com on your favorite podcatcher. I keep saying this, we're on YouTube. If you found us on YouTube, thanks for watching. Give us a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel. Every little bit helps here on TopMedTalk. So thanks so much, everybody. Have a great day. Cheers.
TopMedTalk. Thanks for downloading TopMedTalk. Don't forget to subscribe. Check us out on YouTube and, of course, on social media. We're on Instagram, Facebook and X. Also, it's important to remember that TopMedTalk is the broadcasting arm of EPPOM, evidence-based perioperative medicine. We'd love you to find out more about that, and the way to do that is eppom.org. Check out our website and find out about some of the incredible conferences we're going to be arranging across the year. eppom.org.